Hi, in this video I'm going to respond to some of the comments that people have made to the 4 videos that I've done talking about how the BBC present coverage of Formula One. I'll go through from the first video to the last, but I'm just going to start off with this comment because it's an important comment. Obviously we know that the types of comments that flood the comment section of my videos are those from fools, but this one's actually not a foolish comment, but it's something that's really key. So comment is, it says, I'm sorry to say this, but I don't know what this video series is about. I mean, it's just F1 commentary of a live race. That's it. You either like it or you don't. The half of the time I don't even listen or pay attention to it, so I don't get what the problem is. For me, it's a non-issue, but everyone's different. I won't deny that. Okay, and then they go on to, check that I'm okay. So I'm cool. Thank you very much for checking in. I appreciate your concern. But the key is answering your point about not understanding what the video is about with the BBC. The whole point of this is that where do you rely on for your education? In this world, we grow up, we go to school, you learn, in theory. That's the way that the model is. You learn, and when you leave school, you may go on to further education, and you may seek to continue to learn. Beyond that, where do you evolve? Where do you grow? Where do you gain your knowledge from? And often, that is media. That some people read, some people use written media, whether that's newspapers. Some get their information, their education from the television. Some now use social media. Now, there are certain types of program on the television which we know are factual. Some are entertainment. So the entertainment programs we tend to take with a pinch of salt. They are there for entertainment, for comedy purposes, for whatever it might be, an escapism. Okay, but there's programs which are factual. Now, what is sport? Sport is both entertainment, but it is also factual because it's real. Something is happening and you are being entertained by what it is that's happening. And you have commentators that talk about that sport, and their purpose is to describe the action, to inform the viewer or the listener, and to guide them with greater perspective. Okay, now let me give you an example. Football, which we're told is the biggest sport on the planet. The majority of people have some understanding of football. Imagine the BBC are showing a football match and they've got commentators commentating on a football match. And imagine they go into half time and let's say it's Liverpool versus Manchester City. And Manchester City are 2-0 up at half time. And then the commentators are talking and talking to the world who are watching, saying, oh, I wonder what they're going to do in the second half. Will Manchester City come out 2-0 up? Or will they reset the scores to 0-0? I'm not sure what's going to happen there. What is that all about? Imagine that Liverpool made a substitution. They took off Mo Salah, who we know from the evidence of the last 3 or 4 seasons that he is their top scorer. He is their significant goal threat. They substituted him off. Imagine a few minutes later, the commentators saying, oh, and I wonder, is Mo Salah going to be allowed to be substituted back on in this game? He's gesticulating at the referee and he's asking if he can be let back on. What's going on? We know that that's not possible. He's been substituted off. You're out of the game. So we know what is possible in football. We know what the rules are. We know what, the simple things of what's right or wrong. Okay? And you expect the commentators to talk about the sport like that. If they start coming out with eventualities which are absolute bullshit, what are they doing? That's not acceptable. What they'd be doing is if they are lying to people, they are misinforming people. That is completely unacceptable. Why would you be allowed to broadcast if that is what you're doing? Especially for what is supposed to be a reputable, authentic broadcasting company, somebody that you are supposed to be able to believe, supposed to be actually fulfilling a role of educating people, and yet filling the airwaves with misinformation. But what do we get in Formula One? In Formula One we get, wow, and Charles Leclerc is gesticulating at the marshals, trying to get that car back on the truck to get it back to the pits to see if he'll be able to take the restart. Well, that's not possible. So why are you saying it? And if you don't know, you're not qualified to do the job. And then we get, oh, and what's going to happen at the restart? Is Lando Norris going to be allowed to start from second, or is he going to be back in sixth again? Well, we know what that answer is. We know that he made them places up. They then subsequently red flagged the race some time after that, but they'd gone through enough timing sectors to identify a race order, so them places get kept. So we know the answer to this, but we've got commentators going, wow, what's going to happen? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? We don't know. Well, you know what? If you don't know, you're not qualified to do the job. And this is the problem with the whole hype show of Formula One. We have got a crew of presenters that are just hyping stuff up and not educating fans. You take this back to Abu Dhabi. We've got Martin Brundle going, and I don't think they have to let the lapped cars through. I don't think it's mandatory. Okay, so what's that? That's a lie. Because in 2012, for the start of the 2012 season, that was a rule of the sport. They have let the lapped cars through because it's a rule of the sport ever since. Why is that a rule of the sport? And what are the implications? Why have they made it a rule of the sport? Why have they not educated fans as to the reason of the purpose of doing it? Because that purpose that they give the explanation of, oh, it's just to get them out of the way of the race between the leaders. Well, that's not true. Because they've let lapped cars through when they weren't interfering. When Mark Webber was at the back of the field having been lapped, they let him through. So he's not interfering with anything whatsoever, but they've unlapped him. So that's clearly not the purpose, is it? So you lie about the purpose, you lie about the rule itself, saying, oh, I don't think it's mandatory. You're paid to present something to the world and you don't know. There's a problem with that. You are presented as an expert and you don't know. Is it that you don't know, or is it that you are purposefully presenting disinformation? And that is the problem. That is the problem. Because as soon as you start lying to people, as soon as you start misinforming them, you condition people with a false set of beliefs. You condition people's minds to believe things to be the way that you want them to believe they are. And you can get people to actually believe in a false narrative. And this is why we have these people on this channel that purposely subscribe in order to make their comments, because they want to tell us what they think. But why they think what they think is because they've been told what they've been told. And they like it, they like the outcome, and therefore they hold on to that. They lack the ability, they lack the brain to be able to analyse information and assess for themselves the validity of it. They lack the ability to break something down and say, okay, I've been presented with this. Is it true? Is it false? Give me the evidence of it being valid. What is a counter argument? What disproves that? Which of the two sides of this is true? Which one of the two sides is lying to me and which one is telling the truth? Those people lack the ability to do that. But what they will do, they will jump up in the comments section and, like Nelson out of The Simpsons, they like to point the finger and they like to go, ha ha, you're crazy, you're insane, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're wearing a tin hat, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. But they don't know. This is the world that we live in. But why do we live in this world? We live in this world because of disinformation. Now, where does that come through? That comes through the Matrix. And people will go, ha ha, he's saying the Matrix, he's saying the Matrix, he's saying the... Right, okay. Go back and watch the Matrix film, because many of you will not realise that the Matrix film is not just some sci-fi action film. The Matrix is actually a metaphor for our lives. And the fact is that we are plugged in, we are fed a set of, well, a narrative of information. That narrative of information is fed to us in media. We are told how things are in this world. That's the Matrix. Who tells us what those things are in the world? Who is telling us what they want the message to all of us to be? Because I don't want to go too deep into it now, but you can take this conflict. I say conflict, it's not a conflict as such. You can take what's going on in Israel and Palestine at the moment. And you can look back at the history of it and what's gone on over the years. And media, mainstream media, is predominantly telling us that Israel is within its rights to defend itself and do so by killing tens of thousands of Palestinian people. The way that they're going about this is a war crime. Who in the mainstream media is actually saying that? Why are they not saying that? Who is controlling what the mainstream media say? So, people think that this channel is all about Formula One. I'm doing what I'm doing through the medium of Formula One because I recognise one of the biggest global injustices that was perpetrated in front of our very eyes on live TV. And if people can't use that example to see what is really going on, then this is where we have a problem. We've got too many people in this world which basically they will never be unplugged. They will never see what is really happening because their brains are just conditioned to believe what they're told to believe. And they don't have the ability to look beyond that. So in Formula One, we saw in Abu Dhabi what happened. We saw in front of us something take place that had never happened before. Okay, straight away, that should make everybody question something. But rather than everybody say, is this right? Some liked it. Some got excited by it. Wow, this seems fun. This seems really exciting, doesn't it? Okay. So, and some like the outcome. Some, oh, I like Max Verstappen, so he ended up winning, so I'm happy with that. Some, it'll be, I hate Lewis Hamilton, so I'm glad that what happened to him. So therefore, I'm glad that happened. And many of us either are the other way around, where it was a case of, actually, we support Lewis Hamilton and we're not tolerant of that happening to somebody. Some are just fans of sport and fans of integrity and saying, well, that's just not right. If you've got rules, you can't break them rules because you've changed the outcome and deprived somebody of winning a sporting contest by cheating them out of it. Now, that's not okay. Cheating somebody out of something in life is not okay. This is why we have rules in life. This is why we have societal values. We set things up in life. If we didn't have rules, if we didn't have laws, if we didn't have societal values, we would descend into chaos. It would be a case of those who were the what's the best way of saying this? It's not always the strongest. It's the ones that are willing to behave in a certain way would be able to benefit from their malbehaviour. Those that went around oppressing others, those that went around willing to commit crime, those, without consequence, those are the people that could just go ahead and do that. And if you tried to live a decent life, then you'd be the people that weren't protected by a system. And it is, you can extrapolate this into so many facets of life. Injustice is wrong. We have rules for reasons, and you can't just break them and pretend that it's okay to break them. And the problem was, what we saw in Abu Dhabi was that people don't realise this, is before the cover story of, oh, Michael Massey, there's just one guy was under pressure and he just capitulated under pressure because he just said, I know the world wants to see this one lap race, so I'll give them that. That's effectively what the world has been told. And the majority of the world has just accepted that. The majority of the world is just going, okay, well, some of us not that bothered about Formula One anyway. Some are excited by it. Some are just glad that Lewis Hamilton was disadvantaged. Move on. Nobody's got enough time to worry about this. Because that's what they rely on. That level of apathy enables them to get away with perpetrating a crime. But what took place was, you watched this on the TV. Then pictures showed you a narrative. They were selected. They didn't show you exactly what was going on at turn 14 and exactly how long that incident was being taken to clear up. They didn't show you where the cars were on track relative to that to give you an idea of how long it was going to be before it was possible to start racing. Because anybody that watches any sport can look at how things are panning out and go, okay, I know what's going to happen here. I've seen this time and time and time again, and this is how this is going to go. Okay, now sometimes there's surprises, but in certain things within the sport, you know what the rules are, you know how things need to be done, and you can see where we're going to go with it. And you could have done that with what happened in Abu Dhabi, but they didn't show you that. And instead, what they did, they picked out radio messages which just hyped up a situation to make you believe that something was possible that wasn't. Okay? That isn't authentic. So number one, people didn't realise that, but as soon as you do realise it, you can start seeing what it is that's being presented to you, designed purposefully to make you believe something to be a certain way. The people talking about it, the people talking you through the action. Now this one was about the BBC talking you through. But they are lying about the rules of the sport. Martin Brundle is lying about the rules of the sport in those last 5 laps of Abu Dhabi, and so is David Croft. They are telling you those lapped cars don't necessarily have to be let lap through. We don't think it's mandatory, when it absolutely is. So that's the media lying to you to make you think that something is possible that isn't possible. There's a massive problem with that. And again, This is not what we're seeing repeated by the BBC. We've got people in there that are lying to you, telling you, oh, are we going to see this? Is this possible? We don't know whether it's possible. What are we going to see? There is a problem, because what you're doing, you're spreading disinformation. There are people that spend their whole lives trying to educate people. And when you then have organisations such as the BBC, such as Sky Sports, lying to people, miseducating people, that is truly disgusting. That is damaging. It is truly damaging. Because what you're doing, you're messing with people's belief system. You are purposefully keeping people ignorant. By keeping people ignorant, what are you doing? You are creating conflict. You create conflict because you have then two sides of an argument. You get people saying, oh, well, this is how it is. And why do they say that? They say that because that's how it is. That's what the rules are. But then you get others going, no, it can be this. No, it can be this. Well, why do you think that? Well, because Martin Brundle says, you don't have to let them buy. But Martin Brundle's lying to you. No. Martin Brundle's the expert of the sport. He knows. I'd rather believe him because he was a former Formula One driver and he's been doing the job for 30 years. So I'd rather believe him than believe you. This is what happens. How damaging is that? So we have the same scenario with the BBC. We have these people put forward as authentic commentators, supposed to be knowledgeable about the sport, lying about the sport or not knowing about the sport, and they are able to broadcast and give disinformation, which is going to affect people's opinions because that gives them supposed knowledge. That's a problem. That's a problem that needs dealing with. And the BBC should not be peddling bullshit. So again, you go back to Abu Dhabi, which is again the crux of the whole channel, is what I'm trying to demonstrate. We saw what was presented to us through F1 TV. We then heard what the media were then telling us in conjunction with the visual media we were seeing. We then saw the cheat play out because it was something that's never happened before, never happened again, and the reason neither of them things happened is because it's not allowed. It happened. They made that happen. They set that up for it to happen, and then in the aftermath, there was an appeal process. That appeal process, they didn't even tell you that. They didn't even tell you what are Red Bull even doing in that appeal process. You know, this notion of, oh, Red Bull were in there as an interested party. I don't care. That's not a valid reason for them to be there. They're not there to present a counter argument to Mercedes saying the rules of the sport have been broken here. Red Bull then were allowed to present a valid, well, I say valid, they were allowed to present a counter argument which wasn't valid, but which was based on the fact that for the last 10 years they'd accepted those safety car rules being what they were, but they go into the Abu Dhabi appeal and are allowed to say, oh, no, actually that's not what the rules are. The rules are something different. And the FIA says, you're absolutely right, Red Bull, we side with you. And nobody says what's going on there. Nobody in the media, nobody in the BBC, okay, the British Broadcasting Corporation, this so-called neutral broadcaster, this knowledgeable broadcaster, Andrew Benson, this chief F1 writer, okay, doesn't write us an article about that, doesn't write us an article exposing the fact that, look at what has gone on here. This isn't correct. What is going on? We have a so-called sport here with a governing body which is acting in a corrupt manner. Andrew Benson has never done that. Why is that, Andrew Benson? Now, is it that you don't know? Or is it that you are just taking your money and just parroting the narrative? If you don't know, you're not qualified to do that job. If you are just parroting the narrative, You are corrupt. Now, if you're corrupt, you should be doing jail time. If you're not good enough, you shouldn't be in that job. Give the job to somebody with the capability to do so. I'll take the job, BBC. I will write you articles which will evidence the truth that you cannot refute. And anybody go, you've got to be careful about what you say because they'll take you to court. I haven't got to be careful about anything. And the reason I haven't got to be careful about anything was if you can prove what you're saying, if you can evidence it, it's the truth. And so therefore there's nothing libelous in what I say about what took place in Abu Dhabi. Everybody can physically see it with the footage when they don't block me from using their footage. But it's possible we all saw it. They told you it was something, and most people went, oh, all right then. Maybe it is more complicated, and maybe there are things going on here that we don't understand, so we'll just accept it. But the reality is, if you watch it and you see it and somebody tells you what really is going on, you're like, oh, shit. Now I see that I've been lied to. But actually, like I say, these people who's in the comment section, they can't see that. They can't see that. They never will. They've got their agenda. And, as much as we try to get the message out to try to educate more and more people, these people that like the outcome will fight to the death to try, because they think they're performing a role, they think they're standing up for Maxwell Verstappen, whatever their motives, I don't care, right? But the whole point of this, and a response to this this comment here, is this is what the issue is, right? Why I am highlighting the fact that the BBC's commentary is so damaging is that Formula One has sought to attract a younger audience. Okay, the reason being it wants growth. It attracts a younger audience because this younger audience is going to be the next generation of people that go into the workplace, earn money, spend that money. What are they going to spend that money on? It's an aspirational lifestyle. They grow up, they want stuff. They grow up thinking, oh, I'd love to have a watch, a fancy brand watch. Oh, I'd love to have a fancy brand item of clothing, a fancy brand this, a fancy brand that. I'd love to live this lifestyle, okay? Which is what Formula One presents. So all of these so-called fancy brands, expensive brands, they advertise in the global marketing roadshow of Formula One, the glitz, the glamour, the fast cars, the lifestyle, aspirational for this younger generation. And then that's their marketing tool. Look, everybody, this racing driver wears this watch. That would make your life better too if you bought this watch. So that everybody buys the merchandise, everybody thinks, oh, in a few years' time when I've got my job and I can afford it, I'm going to go and buy one of them watches because that's the best watch to get. This is a sort of thing that is going on all the time with marketing, but this is what the machine of Formula One is doing. But there's so many facets to it in terms of media, advertising, social media, the advertising linked with that, and it's constantly generating money. Why did teams and enter Formula One? Why have Red Bull gone into Formula One? To get their brand out to the globe. Most of these teams, they're doing it because it's about getting their brand out there. All right? So if they're selling stuff, okay, because it's advertising, off the back of what should be sport, and it's not sport when it is contrived. When it has been fixed, when the outcome has been manufactured, that's not sport. So people are attracted to watching sport because of the notion of, the outcome is unpredictable in sport. That's why we watch it. You know, if you knew the same thing was going to happen all the time, then you wouldn't be that bothered. If you go to the theatre and watch a play, if you go to the cinema to watch a film, you don't go, generally, most people don't go and watch the same thing 18 times a year, 22 times a year, if you know what's going to happen, if you know the outcome. But you go and watch, you get a season ticket to a football club because you don't know what's going to happen, because it's sport that entertains you. All right, the contest, the competition, the element of both teams contesting within the rules of the sport against one another, and seeing who outperforms the other one. That is what sport is all about. And within that, the values of sportsmanship, the values of doing everything within the rules to achieve the best outcome. So as an athlete, you train hard to push yourself harder, to make yourself better than your opponent. You have a team structure whereby you have a coach and they set their team up and work on tactics to outmaneuver their opponents and have a style of play which is going to best overcome whoever it is that they're up against. You know, these are the sorts of things that are important. Doesn't always win you everything. Sometimes there are freak results. Sometimes one team can be technically better, but the other team on that day has just worked so hard and accomplishes a great result. These are the things that we love about sport. This is what it's about. And within that, that teaches you so many life lessons, because you can take them lessons and apply them to other areas of your life and realize how you need to conduct yourself in other areas of life in order to be successful in other areas of life. As soon as you start cheating, as soon as you start manufacturing things like that, it obliterates sporting value. These values that we actually have tried to instill in young people to say this is a great thing. So this is how damaging this event is, and the media lying about it is ridiculously damaging. Ridiculously damaging. I'm going to do more about this at some point, but if you sent your kids to school and those school teachers lied to your kids about what it is they were supposed to be learning, how outraged would you be? But rather than Monday to Friday your kids be at school and your teacher lying to them kids, giving them kids false information into their heads to fuck up their belief system, right? Instead, your kid got excited about wanting to watch something that they really enjoyed at the weekend, but got lied to about that. How outrageous is that? Fucking up their heads with disinformation. What kind of damage is that? Surely it's the basics we can expect is for media, authentic broadcasters, to at least tell the truth, at least explain how things really are, what's truly important, rather than just be peddling someone's agenda. The Matrix. Somebody is paying the media, and the media conditions the masses. The media tells you how things are. They tell you this is the way things are, this is it. Thankfully, we have social media where we can expose the reality of the situation, because the mainstream media is all been paid off. Look who owns them, look who influences them, look at where they get their funding from, and why do they all parrot the same narrative rather than expose the reality. This is damaging, and this is what the BBC is doing. Anyway, I started this video with the intention of going through all the comments, and I've already talked about this specific comment for far too long, really, so I'm going to shut this video off here. But thank you for that comment, but I just hope that this explanation has showed you the purpose of me exposing the BBC. It is truly damaging for media to give disinformation, and you need to wake up to the fact that this is what is going on in this world. We are all being lied to. And again, what we're going to get in the channel now is, ooh, he's a conspiracy theorist. We're going to get Nelson in the comment section going, ha ha, ha ha, this is a tinfoil hat channel. This is a conspiracy theorist channel. Right, okay, thank you for your time. Okay, thank you for your valuable comments that are going to do that. You're the sorts of people that lack the ability to see what is going on, really, and you just accept what you're being told is going on. You're the sort of people who just aren't ready to be unplugged.